caliber, if I remember right. So it would shoot and chamber and everything, but like it would be free bore down the barrel.
Welcome, Mr. TheYankeeMarshal. How do you do tonight?
Pretty good. Oh, hold on, I don't got my headphones on.
Oh, you're good.
Let me get this to where I'm not echoing.
I don't think you are.
All right, now I can hear you.
Nice, man. Welcome. I did want to talk to you tonight about what was going on in Portland. I saw a rather disturbing video. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I was going to share that with everybody, and I haven't done that yet. I was kind of waiting for you. Have you seen it yet? The video of the clash or whatever that happened?
You mean between the Proud Boys and the other people? I can't tell who they're from. But.
Yeah, I'm not entirely familiar with who the two sides were. That's what I heard, I guess, is it was Proud Boys, and I don't know if it was BLM or just Antifa or whatever, but it was pretty freaking crazy, man.
No, I didn't get to see the actual video because I saw it on the live feed from downtown as soon as it started happening, and I was like, fuck, I gotta get downtown. But by the time I was downtown, which takes me an hour from here,
yeah,
it was all over. There was like no remnants even of anything.
Here, let me pull it up real quick. I just had it a second ago. Okay, here we go.
I saw the part where they were standing there with their shields and they were getting stuff thrown at them. And
all right, yeah. So this is like medieval battle, except for instead of bows and arrows, they have pepper spray. And instead of spears, they have nightsticks.
which side is which here? Okay.
I don't know. They look the same if it wasn't for the signs.
Well, Trump train. It's obviously the right side is Proud Boys.
The people on the right with the mace and stuff are the Trump people, the Proud Boys. And the people.
How do I turn the volume off on this? It's like really loud in my ears. Whatever. I'll just do this. Oh wait, I'm not yelling. Sorry if I was.
Yeah, the people over here spraying the pepper spray, those are the Proud Boys. Supposedly the Proud Boys. I didn't see any evidence that they were actually the Proud Boys. But apparently, according to the one police officer I spoke to today, they were definitely the aggressors and did the damage to a vehicle that was there. But, it wasn't anything severe. They came, they kind of got their photo op, things started to get a little out of hand, and then from what I heard, they just left. They weren't chased off or beaten up or anything like that. They just decided they didn't want to be involved in violence, and they left, which to me sounds like a good decision to make.
Okay, here's a better view of it. Let me screen share this. So this is kind of before everything got violent, it looks like, or the very beginning of it. I'm not sure.
This must be like the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
Because this is, I think, what I saw on the live feed is this right here, and that's when I went down there.
And then everyone just starts spraying fucking bear mace. Like,
well, it's because how ironic is the guy who's holding the American flag goes to reach over and rip her sign out of her hand.
Yeah. People filming.
I mean, that's what half of this is, right? It's not like half the people there are trying to get like more hits on their Twitter page or something,
Yeah, and right there, I actually walk in my video earlier, my live video. You see me walk right past those steps, and there's just a couple people sitting there now. And the only remnants really there is of the thing is like some stuff on the street and a snack van that had been vandalized, and that's about it.
So I think it's kind of funny that like in this modern era, like people are so fucking pussified to the point that they like that is fighting. Like we brought shields and bear mace and are just going to square off and like do a circle.
Which is not what I think protest should be, which is why I say there's no real protest going on down there anymore. It's just a bunch of radicals on both sides fighting it out in the street. And it's only on like a little half a block radius because in Portland, we do half blocks. We don't do whole blocks. That way it creates more corner lots and drives up real estate prices. But it's like 2 half blocks area right by the park blocks. And there's nothing really there except for the courthouse, the Federal Building, and a Fine Arts Performance Center across the street. And there's and that's not open right now. So this is a part of town where there would be nobody there if it wasn't for the protest, because it's the far end of the city and it's not an area you would go to for any reason other than to be there.
So tell me what you guys think about this. And this is something that I'm afraid, I don't know if afraid is the right word, but I'll use it anyway. I'm afraid of something like this happening and then someone shows up and uses a gun, right, to defend themselves or to attack the other people or whatever the excuse or the, rationale is. Doesn't matter. And then they're going to use that event when that happens to come after our rights again. That's what I'm afraid of happening in all this.
What happens when the crazy ass Proud Boys all show up with AR-15s and then fire like 3 shots into the crowd or some shit? Like, I don't know them, but like they're probably not above that. Some of them are probably crazy.
I don't know if I'd say they're crazy or they would do that, but I don't see that happening. I just don't think most people are that extreme. But if it did, a lot of people in the gun community's own fucking words would be used against them here in the battle, because they're more than happy with going in and cracking heads when they don't agree with people. So, it's like someone asked me directly, they said, well, how many people have to die before you become no compromise on the Second Amendment? And I'm like, well, that's a false question. I mean, it's just a misleading question.
Right.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with how many people have to die to believe in freedom. That's the same thing with that I turn around and I ask the anti-protesters, how many walls have to be graffitied before you think it's worth the First Amendment crumbling? And if you can honestly sit back and say it's not about lives when it comes to gun rights, well, then you can't say it's about fucking graffiti when it comes to the First Amendment. If you're willing to sacrifice the First Amendment for civil discourse, well, then you would have to be willing to sacrifice the Second Amendment to save lives.
I mean, the thing that I think is kind of scary in all this is that people are talking past each other, right? Like, nothing's getting resolved. Like, one group's yelling, the other group's yelling. No one's listening to each other. No discourse is actually happening. It's just a bunch of, it's pointless. Really, it's just pointless. And it's riling people up, and there's a certain percentage of the population that is crazy. Like, I'm not saying either side of this is crazy. I'm saying there are individuals in this country that are crazy, and that this whole thing is riling a bunch of people up. And I just see it as a powder keg, and I hope I'm wrong about that. I mean, honestly, I do.
I don't want to say there's a lot of people in this country that are crazy, but there are a lot of people in this country that are disenfranchised. There's a lot of people in this country that are angry. There's a lot of people in this country that are uneducated or ill-informed. And I think that when you start fanning the flames of hatred in people that are angry, misinformed, and everything else, disenfranchised, you risk stoking a lot of violence on both sides.
Right.
And it's just not a good thing to do. That's why I think protests should be peaceful. I don't think, and the counter protesters going down and screaming at them, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're counter protesting one of these rallies, you have to think, okay, what am I counter protesting? Am I just being a supporter of the police, or am I protesting something the counter protesters are doing? Because if it's you're just being a supporter of the police, let the police do their job, and don't get involved. Or stage your own protests, or not protest, but rally to support the police. When you go, it's like people who say, yeah, go down there with a MAGA hat on. And I'm like, okay, go to a Trump rally with an Antifa hat on. See what happens. Yeah. Neither one of those actions are going to help anybody.
Yeah, totally. You're not going to get any point across. Like, no one's going to listen to you. And really, that's
don't go down just to stoke a fire. Yeah.
That's the problem, though, is a lot of people are going down there, like I said before, for their Instagram post or their Twitter feed or whatever, so that they can get more followers. It's not about actual discourse. It's about, like, how do I improve my own position in the midst of what's going on? Like, watch Rome burn. Like, just give me another bottle of wine kind of thing.
It's just capitalizing. Like the other day, I had it in my phone here. Basically, here's a screen capture from my phone. Yeah, don't scream.
Man, I think there's a lot of people there that, like, they think it's a moment in history and they want to capture it on social media because then everyone will remember it or whatever. They want to you'll be able to look back at their Facebook 20 years from now and be like, look where I was or whatever. You know?
Right, I was there.
Yeah, but here's what a lot of them want to do. This right here is a post by Mr. Guns and Gear that he posts, promoting that the idea that there's violence everywhere and everyone's in danger because of it. And then right after he posts it, it comes on here. It says, would this be a good time to mention that we've got body armor and plate carriers in stock and plenty of green bags? You can just use GNG15 for your 15% off. And that tells you right there everything that dude's fucking about.
Speaking of which, this chat's brought to you by ehonda.com. No, I'm just kidding. There is no ehonda.com.
Actually, this is brought to you by Raid Shadow
I
Legends.
was going to say Raid Shadow Legends.
I don't know what that is.
It's one of the YouTube ads that they just keep playing over and over again.
Yeah,
for
some mobile app that just keeps giving money to fucking channels so they can.
The only gun channel I've seen doing it is Brandon Herrera, but like on other subjects, everybody is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like other.
Demolition Ranch did that. Demolition Ranch, like shield.
I don't watch Demolition Ranch. He's kind of a jackass.
Yeah, I don't like how he wastes things, but yeah.
Well, see, I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos. When I do watch, it's usually wrestling related stuff. So I haven't seen that ad on like Jim Cornette. And I do watch the ads on Jim Cornette. Of course, now a lot of the ads he does like, like the old radio posts and like, speaking of hemorrhoids, blah, blah, blah. But if like a pop ad or something comes on, I watch it because I want channels like that to make money. So I do watch that.
This isn't an ad through YouTube. This is like they're like paid to talk about it in their video.
Oh.
So like, yeah. And then they have a little cut scene that they give them to insert into the video. And like, it's sort of like a 15, 20-second thing that is annoying because of how many videos it's in.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in any videos because I don't watch a lot of the the shillsters, I guess I should say.
Dude, I haven't watched wrestling since The Undertaker was big. I don't know, like not even all the way through his career either. There was like a point during his career.
He's still big. He's at the end of his career right now, but he's still big. I mean,
I didn't even know that. How old is he? Because he was like doing wrestling when I was a kid,
He's like in his early 50s. He's like my age, somewhere.
Yeah. I think he's retiring now, isn't he?
He's retiring soon. Like he said that before, though, too.
He's 55.
That's true. He's said it a couple times, but
yeah, he's 55 years old.
I think it's about time for him. I mean, he's
Dude, I was just watching an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and there's an episode that has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, from way back in the day.
Yeah, when he's like 20 or something.
Yeah,
like
he plays like an alien or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that series. That was a great one. I thought it had some great episodes in it, and it really took off with the Borg.
I love the original series and Next Generation, but I think my favorite's Deep Space Nine.
I like Next Generation a lot. I liked Voyager a lot. I like Deep Space Nine. It wasn't my favorite, but I mean, I can't remember any of them. I liked Enterprise. I really like Discovery.
Discovery's good.
What's your favorite movie for Star Trek?
2.
First Contact.
No, Voyage Home is by far the best one.
The whales.
I like Khan, but like I get why you say Voyage Home because that is like I could definitely that's number 1 too.
It's fucking hysterical. You can tell who directed it because it's hysterical.
Chekhov asking the cop where the nuclear vessels are.
Yeah.
Where do you keep your nuclear vessels?
Or Scotty going, "Hello, computer."
Yes.
Maybe I would appreciate it more if I went back, and I plan on doing this, going back and watching all of the original Star Trek episodes, because I've seen, sporadically this one or that one, but I haven't sat down and watched every single episode like I have every other Star Trek thing.
If you're talking about TOS, original series, I think someone should make a list of, the ones to watch, because, there's a shitload of good ones. But there's also, I would say a good quarter of them that I'm just oh, my God. They're just bad.
Some of them I don't like watching again just simply because I've seen them so many times. I've seen Trouble with People so many fucking times. I don't ever want to see it again.
I loved that episode the first 100 times I saw it.
Because I grew up in a time where, every night Star Trek reruns were on. In the early 70s, late 70s. It was just all the time.
They were on TV Land when I was a kid. Like, I think they played them at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then like after midnight or something like that.
Yeah, like at 6:30 was at 6 was Family Feud, and then it was 6:30 was Hogan's Heroes, and then it was Star Trek.
I love Hogan's Heroes, man. Watching old episodes of like they're just so great. Like something about like the dialogue writing, or I don't know what it was. It was just magic. Like you couldn't do that today. You couldn't come out with like 2020 Hogan's Heroes. Like
no.
You mean you couldn't make a Nazi prisoner camp show? I wonder why, huh?
I see nothing.
I see nothing.
Yeah, you wouldn't get away with that nowadays.
What's really funny is the guy that played fucking Hogan, like, died making porn or some shit like that. Like, he had a horrible.
He was a real pervert. Yeah, he was a very big pervert.
Things I didn't know. What about the guy from MASH? Like the cross-dressing guy on MASH?
Klinger?
Was that just a character, or was he like that in real life, or like what was the deal with that?
It's just a character. That's just who he played on the show. The guy trying to get the Section 8.
They hired him because he looks like, oh my God, you're a transvestite? Like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You don't make a good one, dude. Like,
oh, Raw Feeding 101 dropped in $2. Say, Yankee, seriously, I can't thank you enough. He was the recipient of that hunting rifle, the Savage 110 XP, whatever, in 308.
Well, he was actually the recipient of a gift certificate.
Oh, that's what it was.
And he spent it on whatever he wanted to spend it on, and it just happened to be a hunting rifle for YouTube purposes.
Yeah, freaking YouTube, man. Like, they've been screwing with me lately. Like, they took a couple of my chats down for, like, showing a gun or whatever, and other people can do it or whatever. And several people say they don't get notifications when I go live and this and that, which I guess is normal now for channels like ours. But I don't know how much of that you've been seeing.
I can't do the videos I like to do the most, which is like, here's how to replace the hammer in this, or here's how to replace the firing pin in that. Those are the videos I love to do in the most, or I'm going to modify this a little bit.
Well, they're really useful. How many times have you been taking apart a gun before, and you need a video? And I that's how I learn. That's how I learn all kinds of things, watching somebody do it.
There's been many times I have sat at my desk at my table over there with a gun disassembled, or my table wherever I used to live, with my gun open, and then I pick up a part and I go, "What's that?" And I pick up a part and I'm like, "Where did this come out from?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, go look up a video and see where the fuck this goes.
You gotta like forward until you get to the part where you think it might be too, or you have to watch the whole thing because you have no fucking idea.
And you'll sit there and you'll search for the video that's not like 30 minutes long. You're like, I just want to find the 5-minute video, so I'm not sitting there like searching through stupid shit.
I'm down east gunsmithing.
The ones I like to find are the 3D animations, where they do a 3D disassembly and reassembly just on just a graphic, and then that way you don't have to listen to somebody talking as they're doing it. You're just seeing it. Doop doop. This part comes out of this part. That part comes out of this part. And then it puts it all back together again. And they're usually like 2 minutes long at the most. And
I usually also use Numeric's website has the diagrams for selling the parts or whatever, and like sometimes you can just figure it out from the diagram. Instead of having to listen to something.
Figure it out without the diagram if you want to. I spent the whole night one time reverse engineering one of those fucking double action Derringers because I took the grip off and it just exploded across the room.
I'm still missing the detent from my fucking AR pistol.
I
don't know, and I just did a quick search on YouTube, like AR-15 lower build. There's like 100 videos on how to build an AR-15 lower that aren't taken down or aren't straight. So that was my point. Like, how is it like other people are, like doing these things and not having any problem? Like TFB TV is the #1 on there, right? Like they have millions of subscribers and they can make an AR-15 assembly video and not have a problem. But like I try to show one for 1 second on a live stream,
I think it's more about politics than it is about even guns. Because I think, you notice a lot of these channels that don't get involved in politics at all don't have their channel scrubbed.
TFP, their whole thing is guns, not politics.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And that's why that's one thing I can't stop talking about. Maybe that's my problem. It always comes back to that.
I got a strike yesterday, but it was because I played Ferris wheel on the air while I was.
You played what on the air?
It's a really good song. It's a really
song.
good song.
Yeah.
Okay.
By Sylvan Eso, I believe it's from. And it's a really good song, and it was on my phone, so I said, "This is the song I've been listening to right now." And I played it, and I'm like, "I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this." And yep, no sooner did I close the chat than they were on it already. I mean, I got email as soon as I closed the chat.
Yeah, they're on that music shit, man. They got like software that detects it or some shit.
Oh yeah, I got it for that and for Bang by I forget who his name is. That does
You
Bang.
remember back in the day when YouTube had a built-in music thing where you could add music for intros and shit?
Mhm.
Like every time I ever did that, like about a year or two afterwards, they like took that off, and then a year or two after that, they started striking you for the music because like it wasn't free anymore or whatever, I guess.
For a long time, I was getting my videos demonetized or taken down because of the TheYankeeMarshal ballad, my theme song at the beginning,
Yeah.
which is 100% owned by me, created by a viewer, and they kept tagging my video, and I had to go through hell to get them to where they quit doing that. But because I was using the theme music, every video got yanked down or got a strike
What
against.
was it being claimed as?
They were, I don't know. They were just saying, you have to prove that you connect to this music, blah, 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 to settle. I'm like, I don't know who to fucking report me. Nowadays, I know who reports me. I get reported a lot by the other gun channels.
Yeah. I think
Flash Fingers
mad.
Flash Fingers 96 says E Honda 720. They are screwing you because I literally have to resubscribe every week because they keep unsubscribing me from you. See, and I've heard stuff like that from multiple people. You know, like if I don't make a video for a couple of days for no reason, like I'll just drop subscribers, and it's not like G-Webs, you know, he's got like subscribers from back in the day, and they're like cleaning up old subs. So you know, you're like every day, if you're not gaining a certain amount because you had so many, you're like trending downwards, kind of thing. Like I don't have all those old subscribers. I haven't been making videos since back in the day, only like the last 2 years, you know. So I don't get it. It's whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna try to claim that's why I lost a lot of subs recently. Maybe that's what it was. Instead of
Yeah, you don't talk about anything controversial at all.
no.
Ever.
And I don't
But
make
it's
videos where I tell people, get the fuck off my goddamn channel. Unsub and go the fuck away.
But it's kind of like this though. It's kind of like, would you rather have like 3 really good friends or 100 like okay friends?
Yeah.
Kind of how I look at it.
3's a little much to maintain for me.
Honestly, that's why I look at my Instagram page. Like I post a lot of shit on there. It's just like sorting the wheat from the chaff. Like if you can't handle this fucked up shit, you shouldn't be around me.
And I've got some friends that are like family. You know, there's some people that like my kids call my best friend's mother, they call her granny, you know, or Grandma Donna, because, you know, they think of them as family. Like Bill's like my cousin or something, and they consider him family, like Uncle Bill. But as I've gotten to an age in life where if you're not related to me, I really don't got a lot of time for you.
Yeah. No, I get it, dude.
Yeah.
I used to like when I was even in my 20s, friends meant a lot to me. You know, like what my friends were doing, what I was doing with them, and I'd spend money to go out, and you know, because that's what all of them were doing. Now I'm perfectly content just being like, fucking don't talk to me. Like
I seldom leave my house. I seldom leave my fucking house. I leave my house once a week usually. You know, once a week I go down to the city and go to the gun shop or do something. And lately I ain't even been doing that once a week. I've been doing that like once every other week. And I am more than happy to stay home 13 days out of the 2-week period and not go anywhere.
See, I always seem to end up leaving every other day or every day, but it's always bullshit. Like I have to go run and get one thing that I forgot or some shit like that.
Oh, see, I got kids for that. I'm like, Zyler, pick this up.
Well, I'm on my own.
I have to get out of the house every day just so I don't catch like cabin fever.
Oh, see, I'm not like that at all. I'm just as happy here at home as I mean, we don't got a big space up here. It's about 6 acres. And I've got a gun range on it, and I've got, you know, stuff I can work on. Like there's always a tractor, or, you know, like one of the lawnmowers that needs worked on, or my son wanting to do something to the 4-wheelers or something. So I've always got something I can do up here.
I am really jealous of your range. I want to have a range too.
See, that would, like, if I had property like that, that would probably scratch that itch for me. But I just, like, half the time it's just getting out and just walking around the block just so I'm like, all right, I can get outside and see sunlight.
My thing is,
you got to walk a
Here-
few blocks to get the mail where I live because the mailboxes are out on the paved road. So you got to go about a quarter mile to just get to the mailboxes.
here where I am, it's like a big ass corner lot with a decent sized backyard, and then the the neighbors on both sides of me are like hippies that like their backyards to look like woods, and I'm kind of a hippie that likes my backyard to look a little bit like woods. So we just got a shitload of trees, and like you can't hardly even see the other houses and shit. And then I've got a forge set up in the garage so I can work out there, and the only thing I have to leave for is to ship stuff.
Yeah,
Did he say he has a fork in the garage?
forge.
Oh, he said he got a fork. Made a fork in the garage out of old cushions or something.
See, I live in like the suburbs, right? I'm just surrounded by houses. But one day I had a run-in with a black bear in the backyard, and basically almost had to shoot him because he was going to charge at me. And like I made some noise and he ran away, so I didn't have to shoot him.
He would just bluff charge you. You'd been all right.
Yeah, I mean I wasn't going to shoot him unless he got closer to me, but he was squaring off and making noises and gesturing. And
a mother bear bluff charged me not too long ago, and I shot into the ground and she ran away. But I didn't find out till later she's got 2 cubs with her. That's why she was being so aggressive. Because now I see her every now and then, and she has 2 cubs.
Well, someone in Colorado actually got in pretty big trouble for doing that because there was a mother bear, and I think it was a grizzly, not a black bear, but it might have been a black bear. It doesn't really matter. Attacked his dogs on several occasions, and then like the 3rd time it happened, he walked out and like shotgunned the bear that had his dog in his mouth, And according to Colorado law, like you can do it to protect a family member, to protect yourself, to protect livestock, but not a family pet.
Yeah.
So he got in pretty big trouble.
I would do it to protect a family pet before I would livestock.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a cow, like cow's money, but like the dog is irreplaceable in my mind.
Yeah. It's like there's a common question on survival things. Like if you, how long do you think you would be without food before you would eat your dog? And I'm always like, I would eat my neighbor before I eat the dog.
Freedom. He dropped in $10. Say good evening. Just here to bash the Yankee Marshal.
I got his text message earlier as I was riding down the city. He texted me as I was heading to the show downtown. So it's one of the few times my texts come through. I didn't respond to it though because it wasn't like a question; it was just a statement.
It's kind of funny how there's still that grudge going on between. I don't know if it's necessarily going on between Forge and Freedom anymore, or even you for that matter. Although I kind of assume and Hank Strange and all that stuff going on, man.
I don't know. I think the Hank Strange shit fizzled out real quick because people kind of realized he's just a fucking dick.
Well, there's also the fact that I have what, like 1,500 subscribers, and I have as many people watching my live chats as he does.
He buys all his subs. His subs are bought and paid. Right. He's got a lot of Hunan Muhammads watching it. So you got to get with the Hunan Muhammads if you want to actually have good viewing numbers.
I followed Strange when he started making videos because it was like, man, cool. He's like documenting his like journey into learning about guns. And I kind of dropped out when he went from that to I am the expert and you will listen to me. Like,
yeah, I didn't even drop out from that. It was I've spoken to him many times, met him multiple times, and was 100% pro Hank Strange and his wife. And then all of a sudden I think it was just an attempt to get in good with the bigger channels and stuff. He started the shit about the whatever was going on over there, and I'm just like, dude, what's the big deal? If everybody wasn't so fucking worried about how much merch they're going to sell, maybe we wouldn't have problems. But he was just being dishonest, and when he was being dishonest, I called him on it, and then he wouldn't. Once again, too fucking cowardly to back up their shit. I can't stand cowards, especially hypocrites and cowards. It just seems like that's the gun community now. Hypocrites and cowards and little snowflakes who get scared, who say things like, I'd like to see you go down there at night. Well, when I was at the one in Seattle, I was down there at night multiple times and actually did live chats from down there at night. And I wasn't scared. And then people say like, well, didn't someone attack you? I said, well, someone knocked my phone out of my hand. Are you suggesting that I should have run home crying and then be afraid to go back? Because it's not the way I deal with that kind of thing. It didn't scare me, and that doesn't scare me down there. Won't scare me to be down there tomorrow night.
Okay, I have one question for you about that whole situation, and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I heard. Did Joe Rogan invite you to be on his podcast?
I got contacted by someone, but how legit it was, I don't know, and I just kind of threw it off.
Because like that would be I don't know about it, like dream come true, not the right word, but it'd be really, really cool to go on Joe Rogan's podcast and talk. For me, anyway. I don't know if you appreciate that in that same respect.
Yeah, like honestly, same here. Like I really like Joe Rogan. I listen all the time. So like you on there especially would be awesome because
yeah,
like,
I'd watch the shit out of that.
I mean, if I know I got a legitimate invitation to go, I would go. But I'm just like, it's not anything I'm looking to do or want to do or even I'd have to go down there, and I don't want to go down there. But
he is moving to Texas now, so at least you'd be going to Texas instead of California.
Well, it's Austin. It's not really Texas.
I'd rather go to California than Texas because then at least I'd have a beach.
Well, there's technically a beach in Texas, but all of like the medical waste and shit.
That's down at the Gulf. I'm not going down to.
Yeah, they're not beaches you really want to go to.
I've gotten enough yellow water in Louisiana and
So
I mean,
Rob,
you go down to the Gulf from Mississippi or Louisiana, you go down there and the water's like orangey yellow colored. I'm like,
yeah,
this
it looks like fucking what's it called? Gatorade.
Yeah, it's just gross. I'm like, what the fuck?
well, the water in Aurora, Colorado, you draw a bath, right? Don't put any soap in it at all. Come back, it's blue.
We got Flint water. That's the way. Don't even worry about that.
Yeah.
So Raw Feeding 101's asking, good rifle cases with foam. Yankee didn't know.
Yeah.
You guys have any suggestions for a rifle case that you like?
What kind of case are we talking? Are we talking about like a backpack to carry it hunting in? Are we talking about like a travel case? Or
I'm
we
assuming like
a hard case.
If it has foam and stuff, I'm assuming he's talking about like a travel hard case.
Right.
Now, but my question is, depending on what you're going to use it for, those can really suck, and you're spending a lot of money on something you're going to hate. So, what do you want to use the case for?
I like those just like regular. I don't know if it's Alien or Allen. I can't remember right now, but they're pretty cheap, and you can get soft cases or hard cases. Like they have a locking mechanism, so if you were flying across state lines and you wanted to take your rifle with you for a hunting trip, you could put a padlock on it, and it would technically work, like that kind of thing.
Well, like that's the thing. Like the kind of case that I assume he's asking about, I would only buy to fly with. Like it's a pain in the ass to carry everywhere else.
When you end up having a bunch of them, and you got to find a place to store them.
Yep.
So there's that as well.
Like Honda said, those Allen cases are awesome. They're only like $12 or $15.
They're more than that. The one I'm thinking of is like $60, but even that compared to like a Pelican case, because a Pelican case you're looking at hundreds of dollars for a case. In which case I'm like, nah, I don't really.
See what you did.
I'm talking about the Allen soft cases. You're probably talking about the hard cases, right?
Well, Allen makes both hard and soft.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the Allen soft case is like less than $20. It's great.
Yeah, the soft one. I'm talking about the hard case for them.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't fucking matter.
Anyway, if you would buy one of those foam padded cases like that, though, Pelicans are awesome, but they're expensive.
Yeah,
they're pricey.
I actually have a background and a banner, and like I can have more than 6 people now because I had to because I fucking used StreamYard too much, and they made me pay them. So at least part of your super chats and things are going to pay for us being here.
The Gay Frog Chat thanks you for your support. These shows are brought to you by viewers like you.
Not me.
Yeah, I've given more money to you than you haven't given any money to me, you motherfucker. That's all right though. I get by. Just
he doesn't have any question to ask you that you wouldn't answer for free.
Yeah. he doesn't want to know your opinion.
Uh-oh. There's someone calling someone a Nazi on my Discord. I'll have to look at that. I have mods on my Discord, you know. If you're a mod on my Discord and you see shit like that.
Where is it?
Shut it down.
I don't know.
On Discord?
I'm not going to look right now for Nazi bullshit on my Discord.
I just put it there like 10 minutes ago, so it shouldn't be hard to find.
I don't know, man. I don't think anyone's a Nazi these days, right? Is there any like Illinois Nazis walking around?
Yes,
I'm sure there's.
Yeah, there's neo-Nazis and there's white supremacists and there's Aryan Nation youth and all that other stuff. But they're so far and few and far between, and they are, like as one of my viewers put it, they are living hard fucking lives. It is just abject poverty and depression 90% of their time. Then those people get preyed on by hate groups like the KKK or groups like Antifa or the Marxist movement. They prey on angry, downtrodden, disenfranchised people, and then that's how they use them up, and that's how they make their points and get all the stuff done they want to get done, is by using and manipulating these vulnerable people.
Well, I end up feeling bad for them if you've ever talked to them.
Sorry.
Like I've talked to a few of them. I'm like, what's wrong? Like everything is the black man's fault, or everything is the Jews' fault. Like there's no responsibility. There's no understanding of even like basic concepts. And I'm like, you've got 10 more problems before you even want to address that one.
Yeah, and I always say to people, if you do take the time to talk to someone like who's a white supremacist or anything like that, you'll find that they don't really even give two shits about that stuff, really.
Yeah.
What really is, there's underlying factors. There's things about them that have to change, and about their situation that would have to change before they're able to see beyond the end of their nose and beyond their own petty anger. And you're not going to do that by just calling them Nazis and dismissing them. You're going to have to talk to them.
It's a group they finally found. Like they finally found a group.
I have a shitload of followers on Instagram that were all Nazis, because I posted so many World War II guns, like it just fucking like happened, and like they didn't know I was gay, so they hung around. And I always was like, I'm not gonna block them, because like all the stuff I'm posting besides guns is like freedom and liberty and like how they're wrong and shit. So maybe they'll get a little poison with their fucking sugar or whatever. And then strangely, I lost all of those accounts when I came out as gay.
See, I thought like and I might be wrong about this because I'm not a Nazi and I've never been to prison. So the prison system has a way of like converting people into ideologies that they might not necessarily agree with going into it as a matter of survival.
It's all about safety. In prison, it's all about safety. You finds like, and then you band together for protection. Because if you're the lone wolf in prison, well, then you're the first target. Because if someone shanks you while you're in the hospital, while you're in the infirmary, they don't have to worry about your buddy shanking them if you're a lone wolf. So you band together for safety.
Right, and they use prison as a way to grow their ranks, and that's where I always thought like the biggest expansion of that kind of thing in 21st century America is in prison.
Well, yeah, it happens a lot from prison, because they'll do the indoctrination in prison. And then when these people get out of prison, they're often, got nothing to go to. So a lot of these like hate groups, etc., well, they will even have like I guess flop houses, and they'll say, hey, you're getting out next week, you ain't got any place to go. Well, then you can stay at our place, and and then they just become a member of this cult, basically. That's so.
There's a lot of it too that's blended in with motorcycle gangs too.
Yeah.
Did you? I forget the name of the movie. There was some movie with Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, where he played the leader of a neo-Nazi like organization that like indoctrinated youth and had them like murder people. And it was like a recent movie, like in the past couple like 5 years or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it.
I think you're thinking of an episode of Star Trek.
No, I'm not. Hold on. Let me look it up and prove you wrong, bitch.
I'm just being funny, man.
Green Room.
Is that it?
Yes.
I'm trying to read what's going on here.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Green Room, 2015.
Well,
see, Honda's right. Honda was right again.
I said you weren't right. I was making fun of you.
I just feel the need to prove myself because of that onion incident.
Yeah.
Philip Bell said some people love prison. I don't know if anyone loves prison. I know there's some people probably have some mental illnesses that make prison maybe interesting for them. But some people just can't survive on the outside. They got no skills. They got nothing. Well, so they're being fed.
There's a term for that. It's called being institutionalized. Like if you live enough time in prison, then you adapt to it, and then it's hard to like live life out in the real world, in the normal world where you're free to do what you want. It's not structured. You don't have a place to go, a thing to do.
Sounds like the military.
Yeah,
Not-
you'll find that a lot
honestly,
in the
it's-
military.
that's
You find a
similar
lot
to
of guys that do great in the military. They get out and just struggle hard, and then you got a guy who barely made it in the platoon, and now he's out making millions. So
what was he going to say? Oh, like Leah Delaria said, say what you want about prison, but it's a great place to meet girls.
Well, I guess it depends on which kind of prison and whether you're the guard or not. But yeah,
She's a woman, so it's a great place for her to meet girls. Leah Delaria. I guess for us, we would just say what you want about prison, but it's a great place to get a date.
you guys.
So I did have a question for you, Yankee. I, at the beginning of all this coronavirus stuff, had a period of time where I was short on money and I had to sell some guns. One of them was a 357 Magnum revolver, and I want to replace it with something fairly cheap. And there was a couple of different options that I was looking at. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Because the 686 and the 686 Plus are a little bit too spendy for what I'm looking for.
If it's a gun broker auction, don't fucking post the fucking information where they can find it, man. Someone who doesn't like you will bid it up.
Well, no shit, but I'm just talking about...
Yeah, show it.
Hold on. I gotta fucking sign in bullshit.
You sounded like you were about to hear it. That's why I was saying that.
Okay, there was a Smith & Wesson Model 19-4.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Model 66.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also looking at a Colt Trooper Mark III.
I would not go with the Colt Mark III Trooper. They're not the greatest revolvers in the world. They're decent, but they're not great. If you can get one at a great price, good. But the Model 66 is a nice little K-frame, as is the 19. Which barrel links are on these two?
I pointed him at the trooper because he was wanting a Python, and like a trooper's kind of like a cheap Python, and something.
It's like a trailer park version of a Python.
I'm looking for a 4-inch barrel is what I'm looking at. Like I want like a basically full size 357 Magnum revolvers. What I sold, what I want to replace.
And what model is the 66? What dash model?
66-1 P320.
Oh, that's the early 66.
Oh, that's the item.
Yeah. So that's got a fixed front sight and everything. So I don't know. I think I'd go with the 19 myself would be my choice, but the 66 if you wanted stainless.
Yeah, I could go either way, to be honest. I don't really care. The thing about the 19 that I was looking at is it's just kind of older and got some wear on it, and since it's blued, I'd have to re-blue it, and who knows how it would look, with my gunsmithing skills and all that.
I'm just going to 66.
Yeah,
they're both 6-shot revolvers.
Great.
Honda, please don't bore lightning holes in the cylinder.
I just gotta, put some chatter marks on it and drill a few holes out extra big and put some stippling on the grips.
Put it away.
First thing you should do is go through and strip all the screws first.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Obviously. I mean, that's without even saying. Why would you mention that?
What was it? I got something the other day. I got a part for something the other day, and it came in, and the screws were already stripped on it. I was like, "This is supposed to be a fucking new part. Why? How are the screws stripped already?"
Temporary labor.
I saw a Model 19 that had been gunsmith, and in the process, they concluded that the best thing to do was to JB weld the side plate back on.
They do it.
So, okay, then here's my other question for you, Yankee. Price around 500, give or take. Used 357 revolver, 4-inch barrel-ish, can be 3. That's fine. I don't care. What is your suggestions? What should I get?
That model 19 is a good choice. Any good used K-frame or L-frame Smith you can find in that price range. If you're wanting something newer, look at maybe like a Taurus, because the Taurus makes some pretty good guns in that. Not too far off from that when they're new. So
I kind of decided recently, like any gun purchase that I make from here till forever is going to be a used gun, preferably something they don't make anymore, to be honest.
Well, I would say this new Colt King Cobra.
Yeah, they still make the 19s and the 66s, so maybe go with the Colt, I guess.
Right, which is why the Colt was in the running. But I don't know what it's actually going to sell for when it's done, because it's still got 3.5 days left on the bidding. I mean, it's only at $400 right now, so whatever.
Yeah, that's going to move up a little bit, but not a whole. I mean, but those aren't worth a whole lot.
Right, that was that.
And especially Colts making their guns, it doesn't. It's not as big a deal.
What he's looking at is kind of beat up and banged up, and he doesn't care because he's just going to shoot it anyway. So,
yeah. I mean, it's not a self-defense. It's nothing that I'm going to carry. Nothing like that. I just want a different 357 because I've got lots of ammo for it, and now I don't have a revolver that shoots 357.
but a 66-1 is just, I wouldn't mind having it, so I would definitely recommend it.
Right on. What's your guys' next gun purchase that you're thinking about making?
I'm buying a Ruger LCR of some flavor, and I'm thinking about buying a Tokarev too, just because I want one.
I might end up getting a second Tokarev, but I don't have anything coming down the pipe until after I find out how much my car repairs and shit are going to cost me. So,
oh, shit. What's wrong with your car?
What?
What'd you do to your car?
It needs another water pump. It's a known issue on those. It's actually getting the upgrade this time because the last time I got it replaced 2 years ago, Volkswagen hadn't come out with the replacement water pump that has the metal piece inside. It was still the plastic piece that's known for cracking and letting the O-ring slip by. So this time it's getting the upgrade, but I just don't know how much it's going to cost me yet. So,
dude, I had a 1987 Dodge K car, if you know what that is.
Oh yeah, the K cars, like they basically saved Dodge in the 80s.
Yeah, and it was a hunk of shit, dude. Like my car broke and I needed something, and it was $700, so that's what I drove for a while. And this girl that I knew flew in from New York to Denver International Airport, where I had to pick her up in my K car and drive up to Steamboat Springs, which is like a 3-hour drive away. Car made it there great, dude. Like perfect the whole time. Kind of like the butt of every joke, like how shitty it is, but how great it is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
On the way back, right before the Eisenhower tunnel, I looked in my rear view mirror and I saw the biggest plume of smoke I've ever seen coming out of any car ever. And it was coming out of the back of my car. And it was because the water pump blew up. Long story short, I ended up in Silverthorne for 3 days, almost going broke paying for the hotel room while they shipped a water pump in from Denver because they didn't have one in Silverthorne for a 1987 Dodge K car. And the chick took a bus back to DIA and flew back to New York, and I never saw her again.
See, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I'm happy this happened when it did because I have a friend coming in from Philadelphia in about a month, and I was like, well, better than that this happened now than when I'm up in Vegas or something in a month and it decides to let go and I'm stuck up there for God knows how long. So
I'm really wanting a Tokarev because those new Chinese ones that came in with the Glock like trigger safety thing. Have you seen those?
Yeah. Those are only in 7.62 Tokarev though. They're not 9mm.
Yeah. Well, I've got a whole bag of 7.62 tote. That's why I'm looking at buying one because I already got ammo for it.
My current Tokarev is it's the Yugo, but mine's in 7.62 also. So I'm trying to keep as many. Obviously, with the $300 zombie gun, that's an outlier. But I'm trying not to get into too many new calibers. Like whatever calibers I have, I'm trying to stay in that realm with new gun purchases.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Beretta 92X Centurion. I'm in the process of selling all my Glocks because I'm pretty sure that the Glocks are at the highest price they're going to go for.
They'll ever be.
So I'm having a ball doing it because I got an M9 and then a 92 FS, and then I got the 92X. And so now I'm going for the Centurion, and there's no Glocks anywhere in Michigan right now that you can get from a retailer. So it's kind of a fun trade.
Anyway.
What about you, Yank?
What?
You got any gun that you're thinking about buying next? You already have everything you want, you motherfucker.
Just the 30 DSX, if it ever fucking comes in from Italy.
30 DSX? That's the Chiappa? What is the DSX? I don't know.
It's an all stainless steel model, no aluminum. So
I really like. Do they make a 3-inch barrel DS?
that the 30, it would be a 3-inch barrel.
Because for a while they were only like the 2 and the 4.
Yeah,
and
and
I didn't really like that.
The 3s were the ones that I championed them making, and they actually contacted me and said, "Why do you want a fucking 3-inch so bad?" And then when I explained it to them, they made a 3-inch. So
yeah, that's the one that I would buy is the 3-inch.
That's why I got one.
I didn't even know that you did that, and that's the one that I would want is the 3-inch.
Yeah, that's why I got one for free. And people are like, "So you're a fucking shill? You took a free gun from a company?" I'm like, "Yeah, a company that I already said I love."
After you bought all the other Chiappas.
Yeah, after I bought every other Chiappa, and then I literally campaigned for them to make the 3-inch, and then they decided to do it, and then they were nice enough to give me one because I was the spark that started it. That's not
you were like the only person that had Chiappas. Like you kept that company alive.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of like if like Matt sold out to Palmetto State Armory, I'd be like, well, yeah.
Yeah. He's
Palmetto
all
and
the
Taurus.
Palmettos. Yeah.
He'd have to change his YouTube name to Paul Taurus.
Paul Taurus.
Like, oh, he sold out to Maverick. No, he literally has a shed of Mavericks. Like
he sold more Mavericks than Maverick.
Yeah.
We have to change his name to Clint Taurus, man.
I'd actually love to pick up a Chiappa, but I never see them around like in any of my local shops. I know I can order online, but
yeah.
What were you gonna say there, Duke?
So when do things calm down? I guess is my question. When do we see things go back to? Is there going to be a new normal? Is it gonna?
Are you talking about gun wise, or are we talking like?
I think the election.
Society.
Both.
I don't see anything like sad to say, but I don't see. I don't know if it'll ever go back to necessarily what it was, given 9 months ago. But I don't see any like real everything back to as close as that till probably next spring, next summer.
If Joe Biden wins, that everything will be back to normal by June of 2021.
Isn't Texas supposed to get hit by 2 hurricanes at the same time?
I think they're going to combine into a super hurricane and then suck up a bunch of sharks, and then that's going to happen. I watched that movie.
All I'm saying is that there are too many things in the coming up to too many factors to be able to sort out when something is going to happen. Things are going to stay crazy till they're not crazy anymore. I think that it will go back to normal at some point. I think that it will get crazier for a little while. Hopefully not too long, but for a short period of time, things are probably going to be I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not going to happen, and the dollar is going to be fine, even though everyone's not working, and we're putting in these quarterly reports that are down 33% from whatever it was last year and stuff like that, and just loans are going to be passed out, and interest rates are going to rise, and that's going to be the way it is, and it'll get better. It'll be like the 1980s for a little while, where we just had a slump.
Man, the reason I say the thing about Biden winning is because the Goebbels, the head of propaganda in fucking Nazi Germany, let me control the presses and I'll control the world or whatever he said. Man, if you control the news media, most of this is just them telling people what's actually going on. They don't
control the news media though anymore. It's not like it was in the 1990s when I was growing up and that's all you heard. And I think that's why they're coming after YouTube channels and doing the cancel culture thing that they've been doing, is because they've realized they don't have control of the narrative as much as they used to, and they don't like it. But I don't know.
But that's just what's destabilizing shit, I think, is because people, not everyone's believing lies and shit. And then honestly, I feel when they realized that impeaching Trump wasn't going to work, they were like, well, fuck it. Let's throw it down the tubes and see if we can get him out of office by having a shitty economy or something.
What do you think about that, Yankee?
About what?
Do you think that there's a plan behind all of this going on right now, or do you think it's just a random convergence of happenstance?
Well, I mean, it's a random happenstance, but if you think there's not people behind the scenes planning to how to take best advantage of the circumstances, you'd be crazy.
Agreed.
That's what I've always been saying, is whatever's going on is what's going on, but there's always going to be people behind the scenes using their methods to move the conversation in the way that they want to, or get the bill passed, or get the funding, or whatever it is that they're trying to do.
I have a perfect example. Like, look at coronavirus and compare it to what was it, swine flu and H1N1? Those were both under Obama, and the way they reported the news made them less of a deal than coronavirus.
But still, coronavirus isn't like it's nothing, you know? I mean,
it's not nothing.
Like, there's people dying from it, but unfortunately, the majority of them aren't. Like, they're all old, you know, and it's kind of one of those things. Like, how do you balance that equation out? I'm not sure. Like, how do you balance like shutting things down versus people's lives lost?
Well, here's the thing: people aren't really worried about the people that are trying to slow virus spread and stop virus spread. They're not really saying, "Hey, let's save all the old people that are going to die from this virus," because they're going to die from something anyway. What they're trying to say is, "Hey, let's stop all of them from dying at once, to where no one can get in if who has tonsillitis or needs an appendectomy or etc." Because if the hospitals are flooded by all the old and sick people and obese people that are dying from COVID, well, then we're going to have more people dying from we're going to have people in their 14, 15 years old dying from appendicitis or, other things because they couldn't get in and get treatment because the medical system is overwhelmed.
See, and unfortunately, where we're at right now as a society, I don't think we're going to have any stage of normal until there's like a widely distributed, proven vaccine for what's going on right now. And a lot of people aren't going to want to take that vaccine, I think. Like, would you guys take the vaccine if they're like, hey, the vaccine's available, come in and take it, $20?
Yeah, once it's been tested and proven, I'll take it. I got no problem.
What about like first group of it?
Well, I mean, in America, for even the first group, it's got to be pretty stringently tested. It's not like Russia where they can just do whatever the fuck they want to do, where they can just even lie and say they've got
I'm not very trusting, so I guess I would not take the vaccine. But I'm also pretty young, so.
Well, I've never taken a flu vaccine. My entire life, I've never taken the flu shot. As far as I know, I've never had the flu. Maybe I have, and I never got tested for it or whatever. But I don't worry about getting the flu shot, and I don't really worry about the flu. Why should this thing be any different?
So I had the flu when I was a kid.
Because I forget.
What's that?
I had the flu when I was a kid, and trust me, if you had it, you would know. Like, I was sick for a month, and not like a little sick, super sick.
What'd you say, Yank? I didn't hear you.
I said I usually don't get the flu shot, but that's because I forget. My sons get it usually, but I sometimes forget to get it. And I've had the flu before, and it's not fun.
See, and I've seen statistical studies, and you can say what you want about studies. I get it. Like, they don't really mean anything. But they show a non-correlation between getting the flu shot versus not getting the flu shot and actually getting the flu. Like, it's the same chance either way. It doesn't really improve your chances of not getting it because it mutates so fast that whatever the flu shot is that you're receiving might not work for the strain of flu that gets to you when you're in the wild or whatever. And
if you do happen to be exposed to the one that you are inoculated against, you don't get sick.
Right.
So
it's really good for frontline healthcare workers in hospitals and stuff.
Well, they have to get. That's why they don't all get sick every year, because they get flu shots and they manage to stay on the job. So they are effective, or else we would have every nurse and doctor in the country every flu season would be sick because they get exposed to it at great numbers.
Part of the issue also is that they are looking at the strains of flu. There's a whole bunch of them apparently, and they're picking the ones they think are going to be prevalent that year, and they tailor their vaccine to that. So let's say they guess wrong. Then your vaccine is pretty much worthless from what I understand.
Well, there's definite variances in effectiveness. Like this year was very effective. Last year wasn't, because they weren't prepared for this strain of flu.
Yeah.
But on the whole, it's better to take it than not take it if you don't want to get the flu.
Dude, I would think with the shutdown and everything going on for coronavirus, the flu has no chance right now. We just killed the flu out for the year at least.
Well, there's still a lot of people testing positive for flus and stuff. And a lot of people going in thinking they have coronavirus and just being told you just have the flu, go home. But I know I don't hear a lot of people dying from the flu right now, because most years a lot of people don't die from the flu. It's usually between 20, 30,000. Sometimes if it's really bad, it might get 70, 80,000. 70,000 is usually, I think, like the peak.
So I
We're
don't
talking
think it's
just America, though, right? Like that's not worldwide. That's just America.
That's America, I think.
yeah.
But it's usually
One thing
like 15, 20,000 in America.
that coronavirus deaths are high, right? And flu deaths are low. Like I think there's a lot of that. Like they have an upper respiratory disease and they tested positive for COVID. And they probably would have had the flu or something like that in addition to it or something. Maybe that killed them. I don't know.
Well, and I'm not saying like the coronavirus deaths are not like zero, but the way that they come up with the like statistic is flawed in my opinion.
Yep.
So you can't look at that number and say, oh yeah, it's actually 140,000 people in America have died because of the way that they counted it. You know, like they got in a car accident, they died a week later in a coma, but they also tested positive for coronavirus, died of coronavirus. Like it really had nothing to do with why he died.
That's really not how the CDC counts. That's a complete misconception. CDC has their own statistics on which morbidity takes precedence when they read the cause of death, because you can have multiple morbidities on a death certificate. And they don't really do that. And in fact, every CDC study I've seen and every CDC official I've seen actually speak says they are probably underrepresenting the number of people that actually get COVID or die from COVID, because not everyone who gets it or dies from it is tested, and especially in certain countries. But you know, I don't really understand why it really matters. What matters is the percentage of people that get tested and test positive that die, and then the percentage of people who get tested test positive. If you're down like in where every time you do 100 tests, you only get 1 or 2 positives, well, then that's fine. That's the way it should be. If you do 100 tests and you get 20 positives, that's not good. That's showing you're in a bad place. So, you know, a lot of people are always like, well, if we didn't test as much, we wouldn't have as many cases. Well, we have to test a lot because you got to know what percentage of it is people that are getting it. And if your case load is, you know, 3% or less, or even now I think they're saying 5% or less, then it's safe to reopen and do things like that. But a lot of places are at, you know, 10, 15, 17, 18, 21% of the people who get tested are positive, and that's not good. That's community spread virus at that point.
So the where those people go awry is that what they should be saying is that India and China should do more testing, not that we should do less testing.
Well, they should just be like, we don't trust anything India and China tell us about their testing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that was kind of the problem in the first place, was the lack of information, and especially when there's limited numbers of tests. Of course, you're going to test the people who seem like they died from the thing that you're testing for before you test someone with the sniffles, if you have a limited number of tests. And when you're doing that and you're showing like, oh, we did 100 tests and out of those 5 people died, therefore the death rate's 5%. Like that's the number that we were going off of originally. And it wasn't 105.
Well, that's not a right way to do it. That's why people shouldn't be. That's why politicians shouldn't be doing statistics, and neither should news reporters, because the way it should be figured is they figure out how many people they test. You know, they test people that are dying, and they test enough. Well, you have to have a control group where you're testing other people too. You have to be testing enough to know like what percentage of your population is positive, what percentage of those people are actually dying from it, etc., before you can figure out a mortality rate. At the beginning, when we were only testing people that came in severely ill, well, of course you're going to have a high mortality rate, because, you know, basically half the people you're testing are dying because you're not testing them till they're practically on death's door.
Right. That's what, that's it right there.
And you can't form a statistic on what the mortality rate is at that point. You have to understand, that's why you have to do widespread testing to say, okay, well, this is the amount of people the disease has reached. And then out of this amount of people that the disease has reached, only this many of them are dying. And then you can start forming mortality rates. But in the first weeks of it, when people were doing that, well, that's stupid. They were like, you know, oh, it's a death sentence if you get COVID. Well, no, it's if you get COVID, if you get COVID tomorrow, it's a 99% chance you're going to be fine. There's probably like a less than 1% chance you're going to die, even if everyone who's testing positive is dying, because that's not a representation. The disease only kills less than 1% of the people it infects.
Right, and honestly, like I'm 99. I never got tested to see if I had it or not, but I'm pretty sure I caught it. And like had it and got over it before there was even a shutdown. And then there was a shutdown and all this, like ever since then, I've been sitting here like immune to the coronavirus, like trying to avoid people for some reason. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, there's never been, as far as I know, another pandemic or epidemic where healthy people are quarantined. It's usually the sick people that are made to stay home.
Back in like the 17 through 20, they quarantined. They started making people wear masks by force of Billy Club, and they started controlling the numbers of people that were dying. I mean, it's well documented during that, that Spanish flu epidemic, how things were going crazy, things were going out of control. People weren't wearing masks, people weren't following guidelines, and then when the local authorities started saying, okay, if you don't wear your mask, we crack your fucking skulls, and then miraculously things started slowing dramatically.
So do you think that we'll get a second wave then?
There's then the first wave's not over, so I don't know how you could call it a second wave when the first wave's not over yet. It didn't go away in the summertime like people thought it would. It didn't go away at all in the summer.
Which makes me worried for the winter when...
Yeah.
You're right.
Like,
so that's what I'm saying. Is it going to have a spike in the winter? I'm sorry. That's a better way to ask. Because you think
of course there'll be a spike in the winter because people will be staying indoors, and everything they do activity-wise will be indoors. And there'll be people that aren't smart enough to not go to bars and not go to restaurants or raves or whatever that are indoors, and there's people who will get sick. Now, how many of those people will be susceptible to dying is another question. But there will be a spike, of course, a little spike. But it depends on, if we brought the numbers down to where it's next to nothing by the time winter rolls around, if there's a little spike, that's not a big deal. If we're still going along a trajectory where still 17% of the people tested are being positive, and then we have another spike, well, that puts us really far behind. So it really depends on what numbers we get to before that spike that matter.
See, it's funny, though, because a couple of months ago, I didn't own a mask. I've never owned a mask. There's never been a reason to have a mask, and now I have one sitting by my computer. I have like 4 of them sitting in my car in case I have the kids with me and I have to go to the store and they have to come with. I forgot my mask. Oh, don't worry, I've got one right here.
No,
I got fact of life now.
That's the only place we have them is in the cars. We have boxes in the car. I don't wear them at home ever.
I have 2 of them in my BDU pocket on my pants, and like either I get lucky and I happen to get the pants that had the fucking mask in it, or like I, grab one that doesn't have it in it, and I'm like, shit. But like usually the mask getting up in the wash. So.
Well, the only reason there's one sitting right here is because there's a store close enough for me to walk to, and if I'm walking to the store, I won't go to my car, so I gotta have one right here.
What do you think the social effects are going to be, on the long term?
I don't know about long term. I know short term it's going to be a little weird, especially if there does come a point where there's a vaccine and everyone gets it and then everything opens back up promptly after that. I think a lot of people aren't going to be physically prepared to go back to work because they've been sitting around for too long, and the job that they have is strenuous and they're not going to be able to get through a day without, having extreme, well, not extreme, but significant pain, I'm looking at myself, man. I put on a couple of pounds over this thing and I probably lost some muscle. I still got it, but not as much as I had before.
It depends on what type of job. I mean, yeah, if you're going back to the restaurant industry or something like that. I mean, I know just because I deal with different companies all day long with my job, I know one of the struggles they're having right now is with some of them doing limited, openings up where they're having people come back to the offices.
Dude, I'm saying at my job, I was going 12 hours straight as fast and as hard as I possibly could with no breaks, minimal breaks. I'd go smoke a cigarette twice, other than that, I'm working. I couldn't do that right now. My knees would fucking I'd have to work so many back months that
it's been so many months that you've been out of it. Your body's become. That's why when this all first started, I was telling people, I'm keep moving. Don't just take this time to sit around at home.
my gym
go
closed.
For walks.
My gym closed. You can't go to the gym anymore. And if you want to buy gym equipment, good luck.
Oh yeah, good.
People were afraid at first to even go out and go jogging and stuff because they didn't know if it was airborne or what. You're perfectly safe to go out and go walking. You're perfectly safe to go out and go jogging. You're not going to catch anything from anybody out jogging and just running by somebody.
Dude, when this first started in my neighborhood, there were so many people walking in my neighborhood. I might as well have been walking through a busy terminal in a subway in Manhattan or something. There was a crowd of people walking in my neighborhood. I'm like, Jesus.
I think the positives are going.
And what they're seeing is that even in more crowded groups outside, where air isn't concentrated and all that other stuff,
Yeah, UV light and shit.
It's when you get indoors, like bars and restaurants and churches. Those are the biggest outbreak areas because everybody's inside, everybody's spitting on everything, and then everybody's touching the same shit. Outside, you can be a crowd of people and not touch anything anybody else touched.
Yeah, I think there's some positives of people spending time like out in parks. I went to our local park the other day, and it was full. I mean, people were still staying their distance, but like had a great time out with my son, and we went out there flying like a little model plane, and like stuff like that is a big positive. I think that's a good thing.
I can't stand that people are using the parks now because like I get out there in the ghillie suit, and now people are playing soccer over me. So annoying.
Well, we'll see how it goes. My kids go back to school next week. Next Wednesday and Thursday, they start respectively at their different schools. And I don't know, because I was looking at, there's some email that I got that showed like what percentage of the kids are doing this or that, or because there's 3 different options. You can either do 100% homeschool, you can do 100% like school, or you can do some kind of mix of the two. And my kids are just going back to school because you need to be in fucking school. You need the socialization, you know, all that stuff. I actually agree with that. Like, whether or not you talk about the indoctrination of schools and all that stuff today, like, whatever, man. Like, I can deprogram them when they get home if that's the case. Like, I talk to them more than their teacher does. That's fine. The point is that a lot of these kids are probably going to be mentally scarred from this whole situation of, like the endless summer, right? I never have to go back to school. I can just sit here on a computer like 1 hour a day and call it good for the day and like say I learned something. And they're going to get to a point where they're going out into the real world and they're woefully underprepared.
Unless your kid's really young and never had the experience of what normal school is, this will be a blip on their radar. They'll just get past it. It's just like people saying, what do you think the long-term effects on society are going to be? I'm like, oh, I don't know. What was it? Almost 700,000 people died in 1918 from the Spanish flu. And how were we doing in 1921? Kind of forgot all about it, all the different changes and everything. So I don't think these sort of events really have any long-term effect on people or society.
No, I agree. It'll probably be toughest for like the kids that are the youngest. Like I have a friend who her son just started school this year. So she went with the hybrid option where like the first 2 weeks of school, he technically did it from home, but now he's going back to in-person classes. And then depending on how many kids they want in the classes at once, like he may rotate out for a week or two. But, you know, for her, it was the concept of with him just starting school, like she wants him to get out with other kids and interact and start to build those social skills.
One thing that I was thinking about in all of this is the increased chance for a school shooting. What do you guys think? Because like kids are sitting at home, they've been like picked on their, you know, video game online for the past 4 months straight by a guy, and they're finally back in school with them or something like that. I'm not saying that specifically, but
I don't think any of that's any different. I mean, half the kids I know come home and hop on Xbox anyways, so it's like.
And I think the separation of not seeing each other every day at school is actually going to cause there to be less conflict between these people.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of kids bully at schools, they get bored or they got bad problems at home, so they start taking it out on people at school. And that's not happening as much right now with not having full-time classes. So I think it'd be less of that type of incident.
Yeah, but if you're having a hard time at home during normal times, like what do you think's going on right now at home? And you've been stuck there with mom and dad for the past 4 months straight.
Things have probably collapsed to a point where, you know, your situation is evolving if it's that bad. So I just don't really see it having that big of effect. I mean, I could be wrong in the future, but I just don't see it.
Everyone like talks about the social effects of like the kids not being together in a group. But like no one's talking about, at least I haven't heard anyone talking about the social effects of like now helicopter parenting is your whole life. Like, you know, going to school for me was like a respite from that shit. Like I was able to get away and do shit with my friends and be a normal kid and whatever. And there's a whole bunch of people that have fucking parents like that like now their whole life is that. And I think there's going to be some repercussions from that.
Well, how did you as a like I'm a new father, so like how do you deal with the stress of like stuff like this. I mean, I'm worried about the world now. I'm worried about the future. How do you balance that out?
I mean, my philosophy's always been maximum amount of freedom for the kids as possible. Your role as a parent, at least my role, is to referee, right? Because they're going to fight and they're going to have arguments, and you got to like be like, that's a foul, back to your corner. And then the other major component, in my opinion, of being a parent is preparing your child for the point that you're not going to be there anymore, and you can like rest assured that they're going to be fine. And
Honda Jr. You can't get eyes.
I think, again, the answer to that is maximum amount of freedom, because if you're helicopter parenting your child all the time, then like they're always going to come to you to solve the issue, versus if they've been on, like most of their issues they resolved on their own from an early age. By the time they're, in their 20s, they're a master of solving issues, I don't know. If you guys disagree, please say.
For me, the helicopter parenting thing, I guess, backfired because I was just like rebellious as fuck as far as like getting away with whatever I could. And as soon as I was out of school and free of them, like I went wild as shit.
Well, the wildest kids that I knew in college, like freshman year of college, were all like the Christian conservative parents who never let their kids get out. And now like the daughter's a freshman in college away from her parents for the first time, like getting drunk and naked on top of a table,
Yeah. Well, that was my whole thing was like, it was like a damn cult, like a Christian weirdos. So, yeah, totally.
Well, and maybe that's my own bias, because I was never raised with religion. Like, it was around, and like I've been to church, but it wasn't like a thing, like we didn't have to go. It wasn't a big deal. So now I kind of like appreciate religion for what it is, versus someone who was like really raised and like steeped in the ideology and tried to be like, they tried to brainwash you and shit. You might have a problem with them, and I get that, like I don't have that though.
Man, for many, 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 many years, we went to church every day.
Yeah, and I can't fathom going to church. I've been to church. I could count on my hands and toes how many times I've been inside of a church.
Yeah.
And that's fine by me. Like,
honestly, I don't like them, and now they piss me off.
Well, and plenty of people have plenty of reason to hate, or not hate necessarily, but disagree with religion in general, and I completely get that and respect it. But at the same time, like, I just don't have that same view, I guess. Certain religions.
Look at the people that get in power, religion, politics, whatever. It always ends bad. Like priests end up raping little boys, and politicians end up being Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I wonder.
Like authority, I guess.
I wonder how many people Hillary Clinton actually killed.
I think it's like her personally, probably none. But like paying somebody, probably none.
You can say what you want about Hillary Clinton. A lot of people give a lot of things mouth service, but she's the only one I know of that's actually killed a pedophile in the last year.
That's true.
That's a good one.
It's true, though. It's true.
A lot of people talk. She took one out.
Dude, on Instagram, everybody talks big about pedophiles. I mention shit every once in a while because I make a meme that I think is funny and happens to do with, I don't know, like killing pedophiles. But
I always think the people that are too interested in pedophilia and are always screaming about pedophiles are the people that have guilty consciences. It's kind of like the guy in high school that called everybody gay and everything else, and then now you see them and they're gay. It's kind of like the same way I feel about people who scream about pedophiles all the time. I don't think in my life I ever come across a lot of pedophiles, and I've been a social worker for years, and still the minority of I've worked with the worst of the worst, and the minority of them were pedophiles. But now, and that's dealing with the worst of the worst. So I don't understand all these people that are always screaming about pedophiles, because to me it makes it look like they're guilty of something. Because it's those ones that are like, yeah, officer, I'm down here cruising the gay part of the pickup part of town, but I'm doing it so I can prophesize for Christ. No, you're down there because you're fucking wanting to hook up.
Right. I always thought the people who like super go to church, because I worked at this like breakfast place when I was 16, 17, 18. that was right next to a church. And the church people would, like, I'd work Sunday morning. They get off the church at Sunday morning at a certain time. They all come in, and they're all assholes and just pieces of fucking shit, right?
Oh, I used to tables. They're worst.
And I always thought, like, the people who go to church and then come into a restaurant and, like, don't tip and have an attitude and you're just an asshole, like, you're there because you're a terrible, terrible, awful person, and you think that by going to church and saying some hymn or whatever it is, like, you're going to be saved. Like, no, you're not. Sorry. Like, if there is a God, he's just, and he's going to fucking see that, and you're going to pay.
Now, I used to wait tables, and I used to, dread everyone wanted to work. No one ever wanted to work the Sunday afternoon crowd because that was the church crowd, and they didn't fucking tip.
Nope.
Now, some of them were fucking dicks, and those are the ones you rubbed their Cheddar Bay biscuits between your balls and your ass. And you knew who those people were. But most of them, a lot of them, I used to try to tell the people waiting tables is I like, just look at this as your charity work. Because a lot of these people are poor Southern Baptists. They barely scrape together enough money to come out on every, one Sunday a month and have lunch at Red Lobster when there's a $5 meal coupon. And to this is a big event. So just let them have their big event and don't expect a tip because you're probably gonna get like $1 or $2.
I always hate the pamphlet that they give you. Like here's $1 and a pamphlet that says that Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
That's gonna pay the rent.
I got a lot of those. But I looked at a lot of them were just poor people that they only went out to eat once a month, and it was during the special at Red Lobster. So I'm just like, let them have their fun. As long as they're polite and they're friendly, I just didn't expect a tip from them. If they're dicks, like I say, that's when you rub things against body parts. But other than that, I mean, because when we were kids and we were poor, we didn't get to go eat out very often. If we got to go eat someplace, like once a month, we would get to go to the buffet it was called Duff's. And it was a buffet in Gallipolis, and once a month my mother would scrape together enough money to pay all of us to get in there. It was one fee and you got anything you wanted. And we didn't have a lot of extra money for anything else. My mom would tip $5, and that's a big tip back then, but most people wouldn't have that and couldn't afford it, but they should still be able to go out and have a little fun every now and then. But there is a thing of like, pay your waitress.
I started waiting tables in 1998. I was 16 years old in 1998. So you can put that in context, however old you are in comparison, but whatever. And I remember the first busy Sunday that I worked, I made over $100, right? And in 1998, to a 16-year-old kid, $100 was like, might as well have been 1,000. Like, it's a lot of money, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, all my other friends were working normal jobs where they were making an hourly rate of like $5 or $6 an hour, whatever it was at that time. And they'd get their 2-week paycheck and it would be like $200. And I'm like, I made that in one day almost.
I remember the time I ever started making $5 an hour. It was working at I was working in a slaughterhouse and they paid me like $5.45 an hour. And I thought that was good money back then. The minimum wage then I think was $3.10 or $2.85 or something like that. So that's not.
I never worked fucking waiting tables because I was like the movie theater kid or whatever. Like, no amount of money would ever make up for the free movies to me. Like, I got free movies and like free popcorn and shit, like whenever I wanted when I wasn't working. Like, and I loved going to the movie.
Remember Steve & Barry's, the clothing store? That's where I worked at. First sold jeans all from Pakistan, for like $10.
My dad was getting on my case at an earlier time in my life about not getting all the way through college at that point and not having a house and all these other things. And I'm like, how much did you pay for college per semester? And it turns out it was less than $100 for tuition and then about $100 in books is how much he had to pay, right? And I'm like, how much did you pay for your first house? And this blew me away. He bought a single wide trailer on like a plot of land big enough to put a single wide trailer on it, right? For $600.
Yeah. Well, my parents, I think they paid $20,000 for their first house, and it was a big split level 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house.
That's crazy.
On the top of the hill in Mason.
Right, which would be how much today?
A lot. Well, when I used to work for Marshall Space Flight Center, there's a place at the Space and Rocket Center where you can go upstairs, and I don't know if it's still there or not, but you can go and walk around, and it's got like the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, and it's got like, like in 1950 something, this was launched into space, and then in the 1960s, this was done. We landed on the moon, and it's got like a living room set up from every decade as you walk around, and on it there's a plaque that tells you what the average car cost and what that was the percentage of the average income, what the average house cost, what percentage of the average income was that. A car back in, like, say, the 40s was like, let's say, 10% of the average income, or 5%, and yearly income. And a house was 80% of the average yearly income. Mm-hmm. And then you went on to the 60s and 70s, and you finally got to like the 80s and stuff, where a car was 80% of the average annual income, and a house was 200 to 300% of the average individual income. It used to be they were percentages of your average income. Now they're multiples of your average income. And so, price and inflation were not the same. It's way more expensive to go to college, buy a car, or buy a house now than it was back then, because back then it was a smaller percentage of the average than it is now.
Well, not to mention, like, a lot of the things that kids today are going to school for are just bullshit. Like honestly, I'm sorry. Like, if you're going to school for some like liberal arts degree, or like, I don't know, there's a million examples of what kids are spending thousands and tens of thousands, if not $100,000 on an education for, and they're going to get out of school and they're going to be a waitress at Red Lobster. Because, and
as someone that has a fucking degree in anthropology and doesn't owe any money to anyone and made money with his degree, I don't know. You can make money.
Well, and just having a degree gets you into the door for a lot of jobs, and there's that aspect of it. But the more people that they push through with like minimal, like actual applicable real world skills, and then they get into the job market and they're like, oh, so having this check mark on that box doesn't really mean anything anymore. Like, I think that's where it's going, man.
Here, I got a question. I got a question for you. What if you had an opportunity to go to school right now? Let's say you were going to use your GI Bill, and you were finally going to go to school. What would you go to school for?
Engineering.
Yankee?
Probably.
What would I go to school for now if I was starting back up? I mean, am I starting from scratch, or am I just like going to go get my doctorate in
no, you have an opportunity to go to school for the first time.
Oh, for the first time.
And you're, what would you go for?
I'd probably go into political science.
See, that's what I was going to get my degree in. I switched it my junior year.
And what would that be for? What would that lead you to?
Because I'd go into the political world. If I was starting over again, I'm hoping I'm young if I'm starting over, in college.
Yeah.
I've never been there. Yeah, I'd probably go into, because this world's becoming a very political place. So.
Okay, thank you.
My thing was, I spent all that time getting that degree and did all of that. And basically, I was a glorified ditch digger. So I made plenty of money doing it because I was taking jobs that like nobody fucking wanted, where you're like digging a hole in the middle of nowhere and going, yep, there's no Indian shit here.
I did want to talk about this. This is from a little while ago where we're talking about maximum freedom for the kids. Saying not max freedom, teach them responsibility. My sophomore year in high school, I had a job, bought a 1964 dump truck, worked at getting it fixed up. My junior year, I drove to school. See, and as far as I'm concerned, freedom comes with responsibility, because if you have freedom to do what you choose to do and you like mess something up, that means you got to pay for it. So you have to make your choices accordingly, right? And there's been times where I had to pay for a window that got I had to literally pay for a window that got broke because my kids were fucking around and threw rocks and broke a window. And I made them work to pay me back for the money that I had to pay for that. Like things like that, versus a helicopter parent's just going to pay for the window and tell Johnny to go back to playing,
The thing I want to say is, and personal responsibility is an awesome thing to teach, and how to be grateful for stuff is an awesome thing to teach. It really very seldomly has how much to do with how much you give them or not. It just got to do with how you teach them to react to things and what to expect. And people will say to me, like members of my family will get mad at me because I bought my son a car. Like, no one ever bought you a car when you're that age. I'm like, yeah, and I'd like his life to be better than mine. I would like to provide more for my children than I had provided for me. And plus, I don't associate whether they have a car that they paid for with whether they're a good person or not. I know a lot of people that worked hard their entire life and earned every penny they got, and they're the most miserable fucking piece of shit I've ever had to stand around. And I know people that grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth that are fucking wonderful people. So it's a lot more to deal with what kind of person you teach your kids to be than what kind of trials they have to go through.
Right, like empathy and there's all kinds of things that a child needs to learn. And a lot of it has to do with just social, like just being with other kids. They're going to learn through social interactions, like how to be and how not to be. And that's kind of my philosophy is like by giving them the freedom to go play with their friends and get in a fight, you're teaching them how to not get in a bigger fight later, you know?
And I don't want to cut in on anybody, but I got to go. I didn't say I said I was going to be out here half an hour, and that was what, hour ago?
Yeah.
Hour and a half ago, I think. So I'm going to be in trouble. So,
well, hey, Yankee, I really do appreciate you coming, man. It was cool having you on.
Yeah, we'll see if it ever happens again, though.
Yeah, right.
Later,
man.
Later.
So, man, when it comes to like the kids in the car thing, like my thing is, if they're 16 to 18 or whatever the age you'd be buying them